how people find a church now, okay? Because they may have heard about you, all right? I have a lot of churches that I talk to that say, oh, we're doing really good with word of mouth. We're doing really good. People hear about us and they come visit us. And I say, okay, show me your analytics. And when they get maybe 4 guests on a Sunday, they're getting 1,200 hits to the website, of which 400 to 800 of them are new prospective guests. And the reason why there's so many people looking at the website, but so many few people showing up, is because there was something online that turned them away. So if you feel like you have good word of mouth, I ask you to honestly evaluate yourself, not only how many people are coming to you, but how many people are going away from you because maybe they heard about you, but then they went online and saw something they didn't like, saw something that contradicted what they heard about you. Or they went online, they couldn't even find you. Okay? We're not going to go to a place, very rarely will we go to a place, I should say, without looking it up online first. Okay? Maybe there's a Mexican place that I drive by. I'm like, oh, there's a Mexican place there. Next time I feel like new Mexican, not my typical Mexican food, then I'll go try that place, right? And then maybe I'll go to it without looking at it. But that's because I like adventure. My wife, on the other hand, she's going to be looking that place up online. She's going to be looking up the reviews. She's going to be looking at the website. She's going to be looking at the pictures of the food. She's going to be looking at the prices. She's going to be looking at peak times on Open Table if it's a fancy restaurant. Okay, she's going to be looking up that stuff. Okay, we live in an informed culture, meaning there is very little that people don't know. And dare I say, I think we all feel this a little bit. There's very little that people think they don't know, meaning people think they know a lot more than they actually do. So they're not going to just go to your church blind. They're going to look you up online, not just to find directions and service times, but just like, what is this place we're walking into? I've been burned by going to a church blind. We were told one thing. I was one of the student workers that I worked with when I worked at the college IT department. And they went to this church. They're a cool kid. So this must be a cool church for us too. We went and we were totally blindsided by the kind of church it was. Because we didn't do our due diligence. And so there was another church that we were blindsided to, but that's because their website did not match what they actually did in the church. The website was outdated. Apparently the church went through this big revitalization process and went a totally different direction than historically they had, and they hadn't updated their website. And we didn't even stay for the full service. We left in the middle of it because it was not what we expected. Okay? 80% of people, all that to say, 80% of people will visit a website before they visit your church building. So, if your website is not upkept, is not maintained, is not up to date, is not available or findable, you're losing out on 80% of the people that are at least interested in you. Meaning that, I don't know, I'm not a math guy, but if you get one new guest on a Sunday morning, how many more came to your website, didn't find it, didn't think it looked good, wasn't for them, didn't create the right first impression. Okay, not being able to find you online is like not being able to find your building. We have road signs. One of the first thing a church plant does before the building is even built, they get a vinyl road sign that says, our church is coming. You can expect this church to be right here because they want people to be able to find the building. But then they neglect their online road sign, their website, saying, our church is here. Here's what we can do for you. Here's how you can find us. If they can't find you online, they can't choose to go to your church. They can't vet you. Maybe they'll go to a different church. God willing, it's a good church. All right. So you have to not only have that website, that's kind of like your online church building, but it's also, they have to be able to find you. Okay. And that's where a lot of churches feel like the job is done. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see and needs to be fixed in 2024. In fact, is becoming a really big focus for us as an agency, is being found online, showing up in Google so people can see you and go to you. Okay. How important is this? Literally while the intro was playing, I got a message from a client Got another visitor yesterday from Google. I record these on Monday. So it was a Sunday service. Another visitor came because they found the church on Google. How did they find the church on Google? This guy puts the church as number one on Google, okay? Because people are going to go online to find a church. It's just the way it is now. It's how people choose where they're going to go. So a common mistake I see churches making, and it's very frustrating because I used to play a role in this mistake, is they get all excited because they got a new website. Or they get excited because, hey, we finally got a budget at $3,000, $4,000, $10,000. We're going to get this beautiful website. We got the website built. And nothing changes on a Sunday morning because people can't find the new website. Because you haven't optimized it to show up higher on Google, to be more visible on Google. When people search for a church in Google Maps, your church isn't there. When people go online to look for a church, your church has no reviews. Or generic reviews. So who cares about that church? It must be a generic church. I don't think anyone has a generic church, but we can make that impression. That's part of branding. But online, you need to have that first impression. Okay? Another mistake I see, besides just building a website but having no plan to get it found, another mistake I see is churches neglecting online reviews. Okay? Now, this is another part where pastors will hear online reviews about the church, click, turn off the brain, skip, this isn't for me, this is too businessy. I understand. It's also businessy to literally have quarterly business meetings as a church. It's too businessy to have finance reports and budgeting and QuickBooks, right? But we do that because it's part of operating a church in America. Well, guess what? Part of being an outreaching church and a welcoming church is having online reviews that showcase that, because I will hear what you say, but I will believe what someone else says about you. And the only time churches ever really think about online reviews is when a negative one comes through. But guess what? If you have 99 positive reviews, not just reviews that say great church, funny pastor, friendly people, but online reviews that say I was lost and God found me and brought me into this community and now I'm living my best life. Now I'm living fulfilled and now I'm passing on my legacy. 99 reviews like those, who cares about the one church that said, I hit a pothole outside the church, they should have fixed this. Or this pastor doesn't know what he's talking about. They didn't do the Apostles' Creed before he preached. 1 star. That review doesn't matter. That's just noise. Because you've got 99 reviews that are speaking to the power that God has in that church. So that's another mistake, is neglecting your online reviews. So people are, when they look for a church, they want to look online. Okay, that's why, first we want to be memorable with our brand messaging. Now we want to be found by having an online presence that's just not just engaging when you find it, but able to be found. All right, we call this in the industry search engine optimization. Specifically for local churches, we call it local search engine optimization or local SEO. This is primarily focusing not getting your church website to rank on page 1 for someone in Portland when you're in Florida, but getting your church website to show up when people search for churches near me, Baptist church around me, church in North Houston, whatever it is, your church should show up. Because again, if you don't show up, another will, and I can't guarantee that church is God-honoring, Christ-centered, fully focused on discipleship and kingdom work. That church might be a false teacher, false prophet, wolf in sheep's clothing. So your church needs to do whatever it takes to get in front of those churches. Because I guarantee you, they're doing whatever it takes to get in front of you. And it's one of those things where William Booth would say, why should the devil get all the best tunes? Well, why should the devil always show up first on Google? We need to change that. So some practical things you can do is, number 1, optimize your website. This is things like making sure all the metadata is in there. Most website builders, you can go in there and it'll have things for like meta title, meta tag. By the way, this one thing we did, this one thing we did for a church took them from like number 7 to number 3 in just a matter of weeks. And that was, I can't believe I'm sharing this with you. That was simply changing the meta tag from home, welcome, you're welcome here. No, that meta title for the homepage says church in their town. Just changing that one tag boosted that church from like number 7 to number 3. and the rest of it took them to number one. Okay. Optimizing your website in that fashion will get you ranked higher because Google will see that you're taking it seriously, more serious than all the other jokers out there. Number two, you got to claim your Google business profile because that's where, that's what shows up in Google Maps. That's what shows up in a lot at top of Google. Before your website even shows up, those Google business profiles will show up. There was a client we had that their website was number one because their church has been around forever and they were one of the first to have a website. So they have the longest longevity of authority, but they weren't showing up in maps. And guess what? Over half of people don't go past the maps option when they're searching for a local organization. So they weren't able to be found because they weren't findable. Even though their website was ranked number one, realistically and practically, they weren't even in the top three. And the last thing is what we call directory listings. Look, go out, be listed on Yelp, Google, Nextdoor, Neighbor, Uber, Apple Maps. The more places you have that know you, the more places people can find you. One sleeper cell that we found is Public Square. You can look up about the organization. It's kind of a political listing, but people are coming to church. People are looking for churches on the Public Square app. So if you want to be there, be there. Same client that just texted me or emailed me in the middle of the intro that I shared with you earlier. He also told me a few weeks ago someone came because of their listing there. Okay. So be where people are searching for churches. Okay. Because they're not asking their friends and family. And even if they do, or they get invited by friends and family, they're going to look you up online. You need to be well spoken of. You need to speak well of yourself, and you need to be discoverable and be found wherever people are looking.